Hello, Canada. I'm Nick, and I'm on a quest to get hired.
I'll be working on small businesses throughout Alberta with no experience whatsoever.
Joining me on my quest, Ben. You're watching Authentically Albertan. Cut. Good morning. I'm your host, Nick, streaming from the province of Alberta, or, as it's been known recently, Canada's barbecue. But on a good note, it is moving. It has been less smokier than it was 2 days ago, and the air quality is a bit better. Here in Inglewood, Calgary's oldest neighborhood, stands Cold Garden, a one-of-a-kind brewery that hosts local artists, multiple events, eccentric drinks, and even better vibes. Now, Cold Garden has made a pioneering effort in being accessible to every member of its community. I'm talking about people with mobility aids, people with dogs, people with children, people who treat their dogs like children. Everyone has a seat here at Cold Garden. Now, how is this possible? How could someone make their own palace for beer lovers? And could you make your own? Well, lucky for you, viewer, we'll be having an interview with the owner at the end of this stream, so stick around to find out. But for now, let's go get a drink. All right. Hello, sir. I would like a drink, please.
Hey, how's it going? Aren't you the one working for us?
I thought this was a laid-back episode.
No.
Ben, this was a laid-back episode, right? Like, I'm not working. All right. I guess it's time to work then.
Come around the bar and let me show you what we do.
Gotcha. I don't need to wear any kind of special uniform or something like
You
that?
definitely need to wash those dirty hands, so come back here and then you're good to go. We do also have a nice Cold Garden hat for you to wear. Always got to wear a good hat while on shift.
Thank you very much.
You'll notice a nice flower brim underneath. Our merch is almost as good as our beer. That's my thoughts, yeah. So at the top there, from 1 to 8, those are our mainstays. You can get those anytime here and at a lot of other great locations. And then down from 9 to 21, you have our seasonals, which are temporary beverages. Try it now or you might not get a chance to try it ever again.
Is there a trash can somewhere?
Let me see you give your best basketball throw right over there.
Oh,
there you go.
there we go.
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay, and let me get my glasses out to read this menu. So it's divided into two, but yet you have some stuff that's all around all year, and then you've got some seasonals.
Exactly so, yes sir. And with those drinks, right now we have roughly 18 alcoholic beverages and 6 non-alcoholic beverages. So we try to make sure we have drinks for everybody. There are a lot of gluten-free, vegan options. We make sure that anyone who comes here can enjoy a nice bevy.
Even the dogs?
Even the dogs, of course. For them, we got water. Right beside the menu, you see our delicious beers, but how delicious are they? They're delicious enough to win awards. And so this O8 is our award wall. As you can see, each little hole has a different award, and I believe we have almost 30 awards spread out across all of our beers. Now, our most awarded beer of all time is This Must Be the IPA, which won Best IPA in Canada in 2019, and we have the gold medal for it to prove it right there.
What is an IPA?
An IPA is an Indian Pale Ale. It's more of a bitter, more of a hoppy beer. The story with IPA is that when India was a colony of Britain and the UK, they would send beer to India, but send it with extra hops as a preservative, so that the soldiers and people in India from Britain were able to drink the beer that they liked in Britain. But when they left the colony and went back home, the beer that they were tasting there didn't have those extra hops and tasted different. So they decided, no, we want this extra hoppy, extra bitter, with as much hops as you can, making it an Indian Pale Ale.
Gotcha. And these hops, they're what, ingredients that they're added to?
Exactly, yeah. Hops is one of the 5 main ingredients in beer, and hops is what produces the IBU, which is the International Bitter Units, and the bitter part of the beer.
And now could we get a bit of introduction about you?
Definitely.
What's your experience here at Cold Garden?
Awesome, yeah. So my name's David. I've been here for roughly, nice to meet you. I've been here for roughly 3 years. I started as the first inaugural NOMI intern. So while I was getting my Bachelor of Business at University of Calgary, where both owners also went to school, they hired me on as an intern doing marketing, and they liked what I did, so they kept me on full time. Sometimes I do come back here behind the bar to get to know the beer, get to hang out with the staff, but I'm mainly doing the marketing like the social media, website, and merchandise.
Well, that's how you know he's devoted, viewers. He introduced the business before he introduced himself.
I'm all about the brand, you know it. The two owners, Dan and Blake, have been great mentors for me, as they are for all of our nomies. And the one thing that I love the most is I wasn't too into the beer world. They made sure I understand it, also allowing me to give my input on areas that I wasn't too smart in. Although I'm not a brewer, when I told them, hey, I think a banana beer would be cool, they listened to that idea. They're always down to listen to ideas when it comes to beers, beer flavors. Even if you're a bartender, if you do marketing, if you do accounting, no matter what, this is a team and ideas are here to be heard.
Since I'm working here, do you have anything that you want me to serve? So you heard it. Tilt your glass so the foam doesn't build up.
Exactly. Perfect. And
Is that good?
we typically like to film for the top, but for the experiment, that's perfect. That looks awesome.
Perfect.
So as you can see on them, they do have a 5-ounce line. We make
Right.
sure that we give people exactly what they pay for, or a little bit extra if we're feeling nice, but no less. Perfect.
If
So
they
that-
tip well.
Exactly. You said it, not me.
And we've got another.
Now that one, it seems that you didn't tilt the glass for the beer down the drain.
But
You know, you have
certainly
about half the beer, half foam.
half foam, half the beer.
You know, just like my math score, 50%, we'll take it, we can move on. Seven beers poured, one cider poured. You have the 8 mainstays of Cold Garden. These are the ones that people come here, they know and love. There's one more drink that is sold here year round, and that is also sold in cans that I mentioned. One of our most popular beverages, the Inglewood iced tea.
There we go.
Now it looks just like a regular iced tea that you'd get in a can that's a soda, but this just also happens to have some nice Confluence vodka in it to give you that extra flavor.
And just so we're clear for the audience, I do have my ProServe license. I am legally allowed to do this.
Great working with you.
Thank you, David.
Kill it in the back. Make sure you make those beers well.
All right, and here we have Blake, the owner, one of the owners of Cold Garden.
One of the owners of Cold Garden, yeah.
And Blake will be giving us.
Yeah, you want to check out the back?
Yeah, I want to check out the back.
Let's do it. This is kind of our organization board. So this shows you all the tanks on the left, what's in them, the date that they were brewed, and then any sort of additions that have happened to the tank. Basically, the entire brewery runs on this whiteboard, and if anything happened to it, we would completely burn to the ground. So it's very important that it stays safe and we have it on wheels. But let's get back to the exciting stuff. Nobody wants to look at a whiteboard. Yeah, so this is it. The Holy Land, the brew house, the production area, whatever you want to call it. Well, we have a pretty different brewing setup than a lot of the breweries around our size in the city, in that one, it's quite small. I think we're one of the smallest professional brew houses in the city at 5 barrels or 7 hectoliters. So each time we brew a batch of beer, that makes 700 liters of it. And then the other really unique thing about what we do is that it's a direct fire brew house. So most modern brew houses today are steam powered. So they'll have a jacket that surrounds them, and then there's a steam boiler somewhere in the brewery, and it pipes hot steam and fills the jacket, and that's how it heats up the liquids inside. Not us. Under the vessels over here, the one on the left and the one on the right, there's actually 2 big giant gas burners, kind of like the same thing you'd see, you know, in your kitchen on your stove if you had a gas stove, or like a turkey fryer, or like a camping stove, just like that, but on a very big scale. From there, these are what we call our fermenters. So they have the ones that you can tell a fermenter from a conditioning or a bright tank, because the fermenters all have conical bottoms on them. So that's so that anything that you end up putting into the tank in with the beer will then settle out in the bottom, and you'll be able to kind of capture that stuff off. When it comes to the brew house, we have what's called a 2-vessel brew house, meaning that the tank in the middle there is the mash and lauter tun, and the tank on the left there is the boil kettle. So the tank on the right, it's also a vessel we call a hot liquor tank in the brewing world. Water is called liquor, so that just holds hot water, and then we mix up a bunch of hot water with milled or crushed grain, barley, wheat, rye, oats, whatever beer we're making, depends. It sits in there for about an hour. You hold it at different temperatures, and in that process, that's where all the starches that are in the barley, naturally present in malted barley, If you hold it between a certain range of temperatures, those starches will be converted into fermentable sugars. And then when you lauter it, that means when you're slowly draining liquid out of the bottom and then pumping it into the kettle. It sits in there, again, for anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the type of beer you're making. And that's where you'll add the hops as well. So you boil it for 3 reasons. One, to sanitize the liquid, and then also there's like a caramelization that occurs. It kind of darkens the beer and gets some more flavors out of it. And then the last thing, to extract the acids, the alpha acids from the hops. So you put hops in there at different stages. If you want more bitterness, you'll put more at the beginning. If you want more hop flavor and aroma, you'll put more at the end. And so people that don't drink a lot of craft beer, don't know beer very well, they're like, oh, I don't like hops. Like, no, every beer has hops. Every beer has hops. So you do like hops. If you're drinking beer, you like hops. So yeah, so from the boil kettle, you run it through the heat exchanger, which we've named Chillery Clinton because she chills it down really fast. It runs through the heat exchanger and then into the fermenters, which are all cleaned and sanitized, ready for the beer. And then once it's in there, we'll put yeast into it as well. And then you leave it alone. You put it at the right temperature and you kind of let it do its thing. So it's now sat in these tanks for a couple of weeks. You know, it's the sugars are all gone. The yeasts have converted it into beer. But all we have is just like warm, flat beer at that point. So from there, we cool it down, which is what these lines do. So that's another thing people notice when they come into Cold Garden right away, is all the pool noodles hanging from the roof. So those aren't just decorations. They have a very important purpose. All of these lines that are running to the tank are filled with glycol, so like a chilling solution. These pool noodles are here to insulate these lines. But when we were building the place, we were kind of like, we were doing it all on our own and we didn't have a lot of money, and we were like, oh man, this insulation costs a lot of money. We should just use pool noodles. And we looked it up and we're like, oh, it's half the price, so let's do it.
It works.
And then we'll push the beer out of there using CO2 head pressure. So we don't pump any of it, it all just gets pressure. And it'll send it over to these tanks. And these are what we call bright tanks or conditioning tanks.
Where's the connection between this tank?
We'll use a hose. Yeah, so we'll sanitize a series of hoses, and we'll purge all of the oxygen out of these tanks. Then we hook the hose up, and then we push the beer over. It sits in these tanks for anywhere from like 3 days up to 6 weeks, depending on the beer you're making. So if it's just a normal ale, it'll go in here for a couple of days, stay cool for a little bit, and we hook it up to this guy. It's called the Fizz Whiz.
The Fizz Whiz?
This is called the Fizz Whiz. It's a good Canadian company based out of the Maritimes that makes these machines. And you plug them all in, you hook a bunch of hoses up to your tank, put power to it, hook CO2 up to the machine, and then it'll just perfectly carbonate your beer every time in about 6 to 8 hours. Yeah, it's a fantastic machine, and most people have them now. It's one of my favorite things that we own in the brewery. Yeah.
David had a wonderful allegory about how the different types of beer were sort of like the animal kingdom, and I was kind of explaining how we had the common ancestor now here, the regular beer that nobody wanted to drink.
Yeah.
And here's where it turns. You get the ale, you get the ciders.
Yeah.
You get all of that from this machinery right here. So this is what divides it.
Yeah, this is the final. This is what produces the final product. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So this is where it kind of conditions. This is beer. This is where beer becomes beer that people want. Cold and carbonated and crisp. So we kind of just talked about the process. And I'll show you what the raw ingredients look like, and why it's so neat. Because we talk about all the mashing and the boiling and all that, but ultimately you're taking water, malt, hops, and yeast, and at the end of it you're producing a beer that looks like this. So we have water, like I said here. This is different barley, so you can see the different colors, and then you have everything from dark malts right here up to different kind of range in between. Everything in between here and here, it exists. I actually have 2 examples here for you. So this is kind of base malt right here, and you can try it, you can eat it, and you can taste the difference. So just try and take a couple grains. And you get a little bit of sweetness, you get that graininess, right? You can kind of start seeing how those flavors are going to translate into a beer. And then this is what's called chocolate malt. So
looking forward to this one.
Yeah. It might not taste like what you think it's going to. So that has a lot of coffee characteristics, actually, that roastedness,
Yeah, cocoa.
So, and so this is a very dark malt, almost as dark as it gets, and this is almost as light as it gets, and then, like I said, there's a million different in between there. This right here is hops. So this big jar here, and again, same situation, there's a endless variety of hop strains out there. So you can try that as well. I would say just take a very tiny taste of it because it's a super strong flavor.
The texture is very...
Yeah, so hops are interesting because they don't taste good when they're not in beer, right? I had to do that one to you. But let me bring you to the back. We got a brew day going on, like I said. So let me introduce you to the brewers, and then they can talk to you for a little bit.
Perfect. I still feel the hop in the back of my throat. Tell me about the beer.
Hello guys. So today we are brewing the Cake Face. Right now it's not a beer. I think Blake explained to you that in the brew house we make the wort, like the sugar concoction that will be turned into beer by the yeast during fermentation. For the Cake Face we use the real Madagascar vanilla beans.
Wow.
And if you smell it, you can see how amazing it is. The aroma of this is fantastic. See how fresh. So by using the fresh beans, it gives so much freshness and so much more vanilla character than just an extract. So that's why people love it. One key component is that every beer we need to have a perfect temperature control to make sure that the wort will come out and the beer will have the perfect body, whether a light body or a heavier body depending on the character. For example, I told you that temperature is one of key components, but also pH. In the mash process, the enzymes, they need to be working at a certain level of pH. So these are our pH reading. We want a pH in the range of 5.2 to 5.4, so it's perfect because it's 5.3, right? I actually did a technical programming in chemistry, but also I did diploma in brewing, so it gives a lot of the scientific background.
Thank you so much, Anderson.
Thank you. All right.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, yeah.
Can we come through here? Thank you so much. And if you could just tell our audience what your role here is.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm the other brewer.
Maggie? Yeah?
So basically, Anderson and I are both in charge of wort production and making sure that beer gets transferred from tank to tank and packaging. I was a home brewer for a really long time, and so I got to learn this system, which was great, and I'm now in the middle of doing the same credentials that Anderson was doing. So this is the sample that we took. Basically what happens is you separate all of the wort from the grain and you get it into the boil kettle here. And then what you want to do is recirculate all of it so it boils a little bit easier, and you want to get everything evenly distributed. And then you take a sample and check the gravity of it. So you just want to see how much sugar is in suspension and how much fermentable sugar the yeast has to eat in order to turn into alcohol. So if you want, I can show you how to use this. It's great. It's one of my favorite machines. So if you just take it, all you do is, this is like a little pump, and you can dump it on the floor. You put it into the sample and then suck it up. And if you do that about 5 times, it'll cycle through and you can get a gravity reading. And then you just let go of it and it'll suck it up.
There we go.
And then you just want to flip it onto the table, face down.
Like that?
Yep, just like this, just resting. And then sometimes it goes in a weird screen. Okay, so you can see the little reading here. We've got 1.0446. So if we look at our brew sheet, our estimated pre-boil gravity is 1.045, and we're a little bit above target, which is great.
Are we allowed to show this to the audience?
Now you're allowed to show it to the audience.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, with absolutely no malts and no hops.
All right, all right.
Yeah. The other thing that we need to do for the pre-boil sample is take a pH reading, which is this.
Yeah.
And I will warn you that I have broken this twice, and it's very expensive.
Ooh.
So you're gonna have a lot of fun, which is great. 0.31, which is great. You want somewhere between 5.2 and 5.4.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we're all good. And then the next thing that we have, we can see that our kettle right now, this temperature over here, is at 196, and we boil at 206. So whenever boil starts, that's when basically the recipe starts, and we're going to be putting in our first hops. And if you want to weigh them out, that would be great.
Oh, that's just the stuff that I ate. Oh.
You were eating those?
So when can I come back to taste the batch that I helped create?
Probably in 8 or 9 days.
8 or 9 days?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, the follow-up.
All right.
Thank you so much, Maggie. We'll be moving into our next activity, the test.
Oh, have fun.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to point out to you guys as we walk through here, I'm not sure if David talked to you about it or not, though, was these disco balls that we have here. That's kind of a unique thing to Cold Garden specifically, and the reason I know that is because we make all of these. We launch it at the Alberta Beer Festival's Calgary International Beer Fest every year, and we hang it above our booth, and that's kind of the unveiling of the disco ball. So yeah, I just wanted to point those out because it's kind of a neat thing that you're not going to see in any other breweries.
Amazing. Definitely not that.
No, so the clam was the most recent one. That just went up a couple weeks ago.
All right.
Cool, let's go drink some beer.
So come here. Here we've got the man behind the camera himself, Ben Jones.
What we got here is all of our mainstay beers and our hard iced tea that we have on all of the time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys try them all, and I even have some buckets here for you if you don't want to swallow the beer.
Perfect.
And then I'll tell you a little bit about each of them, and then I'm going to give you a quiz at the end of it, and we're going to see who learned more on today's
tour.
On today's tour.
The cameraman or the one that I saw all involved.
We'll start with number 1 on our board. This is the red smashed in buffalo jump here.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a classic Irish red ale. We won, I can't remember if it was bronze or silver, but we won an award for it this year. So it was one of the best reds in Alberta as per the judges. Yeah.
I kind of did an unprofessional thing and swallowed it. It was really good.
Yeah. So next up is the IPA. So this must be the IPA. This is kind of like a cross between a West Coast IPA, which has like a lot of like piney resins and bitterness, and the newer like East Coast style that everybody's drinking, which is like fruity and juicy. Next one is the all-nighter vanilla cappuccino porter. So this is a robust porter, and then it's brewed with milk sugar or lactose, and then we also add in real Madagascar vanilla beans in conditioning, and then cold brew coffee. Like there's straight up cold brew coffee in this beer.
You kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely woke me up.
It's a true breakfast beer, right? Next up is the East Calgary Lager.
I am a lager man myself. I do like it.
So this is my personal favorite beer. I kind of talked about lagers a little bit earlier. It requires a lot of patience and care and detail when designing the recipe so the flavors are balanced.
I think that one's probably going to be my favorite
Cool.
for sure.
He just wants to get an easier mark on it.
Yeah. Then this one right here, and here is the Dandelions Blonde.
Dandelion?
Yeah.
I
so there's-
really like the look of this beer.
Yeah, that one's kind of our lightest, easiest drinking beer. Next up on the list is Cake Face, which is what we were brewing today. I would say it's our most beloved beer. So people know Cold Garden for Cake Face because it's very unique. It tastes like birthday cake. Next up is our Saskatoon Sour.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Too, I love Saskatoon berries. I used to always go picking with my grandma.
This is the latest addition to our mainstay menu. Sours are super on trend right now. Everybody's asking for it. This beer also won an award for us. So brand new, and it won silver in the fruited sour category. The next up is our cider. So Scrapple cider.
I actually, before we even decided to film the episode here, I tried that one.
Oh, cool.
I loved it. I ended up drinking most of his too.
Yeah.
Wow, way to throw me under the
I
bus.
have to know you just a little bit.
There we
Cheers
go.
it out. Last up on the list is the Inglewood iced tea. That's this icy glass here in front of you. So this isn't a beer or a fermented beverage at all. So we source vodka from Confluence Spirits here in town. They're over in the Barley Belt. They're good friends of ours. And then we get 2 types of tea from the tea traders here in Inglewood. And we brew the 2 types of tea, so jasmine and flowers and an Earl Grey, or like an Admiral Grey it's called, tea at different temperatures. And then we like blend those teas together. We add sugar, cherry, lemon, and vodka, and then carbonate it, and that's our Inglewood iced teas. Now I'm going to surprise you with some questions here.
Okay.
You think you might be ready, but you're not.
Hit us.
Which beer has the most hops?
This one. The
Okay, that's the red smashed in buffalo jump.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the IPA.
You're right. It's the IPA. It's always the IPA that's going to have more hops. That's the entire defining characteristic of it. Yes. Which one of the beers here do you think has the highest cost of ingredients?
I'm going with the coffee one, just because there's a variety of different ingredients.
I'm gonna go with the red.
Wrong. Red is actually the cheapest.
Ah!
But you were right. It is the porter, yeah. And then last question. Okay, tiebreaker. Which one of these beers would you say is the most difficult or complex to make.
This one, the lager.
Difficult or complex?
So, all right, you're
to
voting the lager?
The lager.
Okay.
make? Yeah, but you're probably right, but I should probably vote differently. Let's go with this one. That's my guess.
The blonde?
The blonde, yes.
That, again, just like last time, that was the easiest one to make, I would say. And you were right. Yeah, the East Calgary lager. I mean,
I assume so.
it's a subjective to every brewery or what I know. That's my opinion on it. But like I said earlier, like making a lager takes a lot of care and attention to detail and patience, you know. And so I always say that we're always a little bit more on edge when the lagers are in the tank. We're checking it a little bit more and making sure that everything's handled correctly. Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that
Thank you.
test. That was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was great learning about each one.
Yeah.
Well, you have an incredible selection here and a variety, and it's nice to try all the mainstays as well as some of the other ones, and especially such a unique one too. That's an Inglewood iced tea. It's made a little bit differently.
Totally.
At least anything that I could see on the menu versus where it's all mostly craft beer. I believe we have an interview
To be
still.
completed.
Yeah.
And
Let's
I think
do
that
it.
we're definitely good here.